All right.
Okay. Being the time 6:33, we'll call to order the planning board meeting, Tilton Planning Board, for September 12th, 2017. We just got a whole bunch of more information. We're going to give the board time to review it for a few minutes. Did everyone get the letters that came, the emails today?
Yes.
Have had time or review them either way?
Just go.
Okay,
Yeah,
we have a minute to look them over. No. Is this our most current one? set? Are you comfortable? If you need another minute, go ahead.
No, let's lift this pig.
I was just trying to. Do you want that?
All right, so it appears the board is sufficiently opportunity. All right. Mr. Calhoun.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from this part of the meeting.
Sorry.
Have you noted he's going to?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, has the board had an opportunity to look over the new plan? Gary, I thought we had a discussion that we weren't going to take things in at the last minute.
What was submitted at the last minute?
This new one for September 7th? Is this the one we had the other night?
No. The plan, I mean, it's your call.
It's up to the board what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean,
Guys aren't comfortable.
it's been submitted in time to circulate last week and to have the third-party consultant review it. That seems sufficient, but it is your call.
Is everybody comfortable going forward?
It's got some problems. So.
Did the third party make any notes about it in our report?
Yeah,
About that plan?
yeah, that's based on that plan. I mean, unless you're showing me the septic plan. Is that
No.
what? Okay. That's the septic plan.
All right, does the board have any discussion on this one?
More than just the septic.
Okay, would you like to present your changes here? Yes, please.
My name's Karen Forbes from Shaheen and Gordon, and I'm here today with Bob Callahan and Karen Bounds, who are, Bob Callahan is the owner of the property, Marble Kyson. We've been here before you. We also have Grant Jones from Grant Jones Environmental, and we have Mike Penny and Lori Lee Mather from Geo Insight. We are here tonight requesting approval of our site plan application that was submitted back in April or March, or May, I'm sorry, I don't have that date. I was not here at the last meeting, but my partner Sean O'Connell was here, and when he left, there were 3 things that were left and were requested by the planning board. Those 3 things were a stormwater management plan, an evaluation from a licensed septic consultant, and a revised parking plan diagram depicting compliant parking lot spaces, drive lanes, and snow storage areas. We timely submitted a stormwater management plan, which was last Tuesday, to the planning board, to Mr. Sasson. That was prepared by Mike Penny and Lori Lee Mather from Geo Insight. You will note that the conclusions of that report are that it complies and meets the intent and goal of Tilton's stormwater requirements. We also submitted an evaluation as requested by the board by Grant Jones regarding the existing septic plan. Septic system. That septic evaluation states that the septic system is not in failure now. It's at the end of its life. We would not be required to replace that septic system as it's currently existing, but Mr. Callahan has taken the added action of obtaining a new septic system design. He has submitted it to the town for approval. It was prepared by Grant Jones Environmental, and it has been approved by the town. If this site plan application is approved, he will move forward and replace immediately the septic system. If it's not approved, he's going to leave the current one in existence because it's not failing. He's not required to do that under your ordinance because, again, it's not failing. The proposed system will, I think it meets the 1,350 gallons per day standard, and I think your third-party evaluator required or recommended 1,275. So the new site plan application, septic system design exceeds what was recommended by your third-party reviewer. As for the last one, which is, that might be the only one that wasn't submitted on Tuesday. All of our documents were submitted consistent with your requirements last Tuesday. I don't remember when we submitted the septic design, but I think it came in afterwards, and since it wasn't required, we just thought that we would give you that added information. As for the amendment to the site plan, we now have a revised parking lot diagram depicting compliant parking lot spaces, drive lanes, and snow area storage. I would just like to go down the third-party reviewers. I guess paragraph 1 deals with the septic design. Again, his recommendation was 1,275. Even though the system is not in failure, my client is proposing to replace it with a 1,350 gallons per day system. Mr. Keach made an issue out of Building B, but again, we are terminating the current uses of Building B, and it will just be our proposed adult care facility that will use Building B as part of its activities during the day. But it will be, again, still be 9 residents with staff members. 2 had to do with the parking. Again, we have submitted a compliant plan that shows the parking. I think there's an issue in paragraph 3 regarding whether or not we have it going in the correct way and out the correct way. My client's prepared to have that amendment to the plan to make it going the American way instead of the British way. We currently have some snow storage areas on the plan. Your third-party reviewer raised an issue as to whether or not one was within the site, within the buffer. My client's willing to amend that to fix it. He thought that it had already been fixed on the plan. The last one has to do with the stormwater management evaluation that we had and we submitted. Mr. Keach is also in agreement that he actually concludes, accordingly, we do not anticipate construction of those limited improvements. Actually, let me take a step back. I wasn't here, but I understand what the scope of the requirement was that to evaluate whether or not the 2015 amendments to the site plan had impacted the site. Our examiner concluded that they had not significantly impacted the site, as did your third-party reviewer. And in fact, he wrote, accordingly, we do not anticipate construction of those limited improvements approved in 2015 will result in a truly measurable increase in post-development peak stormwater discharge volume at design point DP-1 in response to the 25-year frequency design storm event. At this point, we have been to at least 3 full evidentiary hearings on this site plan application. We are looking for approval from the board. We were given 3 missions at the conclusion of the last site plan, the last hearing before the planning board. We've fulfilled those requirements and we have satisfied all the requirements under your site plan regulations. Thank you. Any questions for anybody in particular regarding these 3 items that were left to be addressed?
Question? Any questions on discussion on the plan in front of us?
She mentioned they're gonna amend the snow storage. And what area are they gonna talk about? You mentioned you were gonna amend the snow storage. Where is the area you're talking about?
So the snow storage area that's in question is in addition to all the others on site, it's down in this lower corner. And we will either eliminate that completely, leaving the other spots that we see on the plan, but in no circumstances will we encroach on the wetlands. We're well aware of that. Because you have to go remove snow from the site.
So on the new site plan that shows the proposed new septic, the parking has changed from the previous one that we had, which is dated July 31st. It shows parking spaces on the right-hand side, I guess that's the northern side, that are 18 feet plus or minus. Our zoning requires them to be not less than 19 feet by 9 feet wide. And the traveled way, and it shows two-way traffic, shows 18.1 feet. But our zoning requires for two-way travel 24 feet. And even one-way is 18 feet. So if you made those parking spaces the required 19 feet, you don't have any room for any traveled way there, per the zoning. And my other question on the parking, on those 23 spaces, how wide are they?
What are you talking about? The center or what? Yeah, there's 7 spots there. Right there, yeah.
It says 18.1 is required to be 18 for one way,
Can I
24.
bring that one?
Well, you absolutely can. Is that okay?
No, they didn't get
Yeah, let me show you. Apparently you didn't get this. This was submitted in sufficient time. We took everything out. We took half the.
Okay, but this is what we have today, dated September 7th, 2017.
That just shows the septic plan. This is the.
Oh, no,
plan.
no, it shows more than the septic, it shows the parking.
But this is what they submitted for septic. This is their septic.
So are you telling us that we're gonna ignore everything else on this print?
This is the plan that we're going by. This is the one that comes in the plans.
Then why was this submitted like
What
this?
is that one then?
Why wasn't this submitted on this? Because I don't like any of this language here. I don't, this is, this,
That's all up. This is the new parking and this is the new compliance. We have plenty of spots, plenty of parking, plenty of space between.
When did this get submitted? Because we don't have copies of it.
this is July 31st. This is this print.
This is the most up-to-date thing we have is September 7th.
Right, which
That's what we
contradicts this July 31st.
So don't get, you've got a septic plan and you've got a site plan. And what you have right there, Chairman Tilton, is the septic plan.
But what is
I'm not
on-
approving this on this.
One moment. But what is on this one from 8/11 has changed to September 7th. This is not the same
I
document.
just want to make sure.
So we have different verbiage. So what are we supposed to be working with?
This one, which is dated,
But
Because I would go by September 7th. That's the date on the most up-to-date document we have to use.
Or septic.
No,
Like Dara
Well,
said, there's two.
you can't submit this, which contradicts this.
Then we'll withdraw the septic plan because the existing septic system hasn't failed, so we could go forward and use.
but where did this come from? Because this has different things than this.
Is that the septic plan?
It's the one with the septic on the back.
This is a septic plan on a site plan.
And it says September 7th.
We use that just as a guideline. By the way, I'm Grant Jones. We use that as a guideline for the boundaries,
put it on
parking
this
area, and for the boundaries of the property, in terms of where the septic system can fit. We probably, or Bob probably shouldn't have given you that. This was something that would be submitted to the state for approval for the septic. It has nothing to do with the, as a matter of fact, there's a notation on the plan that says that this is not part of a real survey. This is just through tapes and measures for the septic.
Why would you submit something to the state that has different notes and different conditions on what the plan that we're supposed to be approving?
Well, they're completely two different entities. I mean, the state DES has virtually nothing to do with what you guys are doing, and
The state doesn't care about site plan, they're only gonna look at the septic.
Exactly.
This plan is a contradiction of this plan.
Well, we'll withdraw it, and he won't submit the septic design that he was going to install to the planning board. He doesn't have to because it's not failing. So we just gave you that information to assist you to understand how much effort he is making to comply with what your hopes and desires are, not what he's required to do. So what we're asking you to look at is the site plan that was submitted on time, and not the septic plan when you're looking at the parking, that's all.
So do we have a septic plan? An actual drawing of a septic plan, not this?
it's on the backside.
This is it?
What's that?
This doesn't make sense to me. She's drawing the
This is
septic
18.
plan, which would withdraw this, but this says September 7th on it for this, and it shows the septic. So where did this information
I'm
come
just trying to
from?
tell you, is all they do is do the septic, they don't really talk to any of the stuff. We're just seeing it for the septic. It's a little confusing. All right, so the one looking at first is 731 or 811.
811.
That's right, all over your parking and those stuff like that.
You're on the wrong one too.
Essentially replacing it in kind.
Exactly.
There'll be no expansion of the site
No, no.
until you update this.
Yeah, it's almost in kind, like you said.
Thank you.
And it says 24 on the other side.
Yeah, because it's 1345. What was the projected? Yeah, 1275. Not much. Where is the calculation for that?
This is the right one. That says 24.
But this is figured for 24 beds.
This is septic only, this one's square.
So,
We got a new calculation.
Mr. Callahan, on 9.1, it says Building A, change of use from offices and administration only to include a 9-resident maximum adult care facility with 3 employee staff on the largest shift.
Right.
So you're saying, if, with that verbiage, you're saying the offices and administration can stay there?
Well, we'll have people there to run it, staff, yeah. Like an office, so what you're saying?
We don't need an office for the facility. No other offices.
Oh, you mean other businesses in there? Probably the main board and everything, that's gone. That'll be taken up, yes. It'll just be the facility, that's good.
Well, he used the word includes. They needed 3 staff here.
Gary, do you have anything in writing from the 2 police chiefs as to their stance?
No, just, phone conversations.
They can hear me. Did everyone get the email about the police chiefs? Christie? Did you get the email about the police chiefs?
Yeah, the neutral thing.
Pardon?
It's a neutral?
Yes. Just want to make sure everybody receives the same information.
And I did also just hear from Chief Sitar, fire chief in Tilton Fire District, and he actually, he expressed support of the facility, provided they adhered with, applicable codes, fire codes, building codes, and identified a need for such facilities.
So your car storage that you do, the winter car storage is going to move also.
Yeah, if you don't want it, if I can't do it, I won't do it.
And when you say, this is Ms. Banks, when you say that your people are not only going to be able to take medications prescribed by their doctors, so that your person there will be giving them whatever, does
Follow the instructions.
that includes, are they allowed Suboxone, Subutex, or Methadone?
No, that's part of the business plan is to work through the primary care physician. So we'll follow whatever orders come from the physician.
Or potentially, the people could be on whatever their doctor chooses to prescribe.
Did we get any new design flows on the septic system as it pertains to reducing it to 9 bed and 3 employees?
Yes.
Because if I use the figures that are provided here by TR Selling Engineering, I've got a projected gallons per day of 1,320, and they're saying that the system as it stands today can handle approximately 1,300.
Mr. Kaplan, his numbers were off. The staff requires about 20 gallons a day, and resident is 135 a day. That number has changed.
Where did it get changed?
We submitted information when you asked about the community water system from Tom Willis and the state of New Hampshire Groundwater Bureau, correcting those figures, and that was also submitted. I can put that up if you want to get, it's 20 gallons. He includes in their gym, we have, that's why the figures are.
No, I'm just going by future use. Residential institution is 130 gallons per day for that. Residential institution is 35 gallons per day employee. And of course, this is based on 24 and 10, but you went down to 9 and 3,
We reduced it to 9,
right?
and the maximum of 4.25 is what would be allowed. by
4.25 employees? Did you say 4.25 employees?
That's the maximum.
Sure.
So, that's somebody's little finger.
Yeah.
And so you said the gallons per day for employee was 20?
Correct.
Maybe 80? You squeaked in.
You said you're gonna do background checks for violent people,
We're gonna do background checks for everyone.
but you're going to do a background check for everybody. What would prohibit somebody from coming based on their background check?
Conviction of violence.
So what about Megan's Law?
Which one?
Sex offenders.
Conviction of violence. Person of violence.
Okay, just a conviction of violence, but not necessarily sex offender. Thank you.
What's the ratio for staff to resident, according to?
There are no requirements in the state for ratios, but we'll make sure there's appropriate staffing there. We are currently starting with 3 staff members who will be mixed amongst the 3 shifts as our population. So if we have 3 residents.
So the state doesn't give you any recommendations? Maybe they don't require you to follow, but they don't give you a recommendation?
Right on. So we looked at your state rules for nursing and residential facilities and those kinds of things because they don't regulate our type of home, and they don't have ratios for that. So in a daycare, it would be 1 to 6, but for our purposes, we don't have those restrictions. These are adults.
Last month, you said our facility will practice standards for staff ratios as set forth by
I'm sorry,
New
I can't
Hampshire.
hear you.
Last month, you said our facility will practice standards for staff ratios as set forth by New Hampshire DHHS.
Right, there are no standards. So we did look into that.
Okay.
And DHHS has no standards.
I'm still working on this print. So, yeah, no.
Did you find the thing with the gallons per minute that you were looking for? You were looking for something with the gallons per minute that Catherine asked.
This is, this is,
Oh, okay.
She had the right to read the second piece from Tom Lewis. He says he is the groundwater bureau of the state of New Hampshire. You have a unit assigned to a 135 gallons per day per bed and 20 gallons per day per employee. You indicated that your number was 9 beds and you'll have up to 4.25 employees. The gym function has been eliminated. As a result of this information, the design flow will be 1,295 gallons per day. With the elimination of your gym function, your population served would be 9 plus 4.25 staff maximum. And this would leave you below the 25 persons per day necessary to be regulated for a public water supply system. If our requirements have been met.
The 1/3 of the water, that 135, is considered laundering. We're not laundering on site. Just, doesn't matter. Just
It's 135 no matter what you do for a residential person.
Do you have any, Christine, do you have any further questions? Excuse me, do you have any further questions? No? Do you have any further questions? I just want to see what Catherine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm in words. Open the public, please.
Thank you. Okay, we do have some people from the public that would like to speak this evening on this topic. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes and make sure your comments are in reference to tonight's meeting. The first one, Ms. Forbes, did you wish to speak again? You were first on the list. Do you want to speak again, or are you all set? Oh, no, I'm sorry. No. From the sign-in sheet, you would put yes.
Okay, so yes. Can you also have them state their name and address, too?
Rachel Sargent.
Hi, I'm Rachel Sargent. I live on Gilbert Road, about half mile down the road from the site. Yep. Sorry, okay. My thoughts are not as composed as they were the last time I spoke, so sorry about that. Let's see. So, I guess a couple thoughts. When this all started, I actually really wanted badly to come here and have my mind changed and become a big supporter of this. I've worked in public service for 16 years in Concord, and I work with people who are in great need, and because of that I decided that I wanted to move to a rural agricultural dirt road where there's farms and little houses tucked away in the woods. And I still drive to work every day in the city, but I then make the commute home on the little road that I want to raise my children on. So I wish that I was at this point feeling really good about this, and I feel worse, I guess, than when it started. So just a couple things. It really feels like a good example of a slippery slope to me. And just a few questions that I have, I guess, just where is the line drawn with the expansion? I feel like there's kind of some sort of joke being pulled on all of us that it's a 9-bed facility. It's not going to be a 9-bed facility long-term, in my opinion. That wouldn't support a business. So I feel like this is just getting in the door. Who will be direct and honest with me about long-range numbers? Is the plan to purchase the large horseshoe of land and build a complex after getting in the door? Will we be back here again for yet another waiver to the rural agricultural zoning? To what extent do you feel it appropriate to change the character and, in my opinion, the safety of my neighborhood? And something that just kind of hit me a little bit that I was unaware of. I'm glad that people who have been convicted of violence will not be allowed in, but I do find it disturbing with a 3-, 4-, and 6-year-old that being a sex offender would not be something that would prevent somebody from residing half mile down the road from my house. Due to the transient nature of people coming in and out, would they even have to register? Would I be notified that, you know, when my kids are playing in the backyard, like, you know, if somebody felt like leaving the facility, we were told that you would walk them to their vehicle, and that's it. They can just drive to my house. I'm right there. Who's responsible for ensuring that the neighborhood is not impacted? So are you going to come? Are you going to come to the bus stop and sit with my kids? Sorry, and I'm sorry to be coming across a little bit negative, but I guess I'm feeling that way. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Rachel Sargent. Oh, you were Rachel Sargent. Sorry, Rachel. Isaac Sargent.
I'm Isaac Sargent. I also live in Samerton on Filbert Road. And I wrote a letter with a lot of my thoughts that I submitted to the board recently. I hope that you received it. And I just kind of want to highlight one of my main points or main ideas here. That just being, I feel like, I strongly believe that they're kind of getting by on this on a typo. I really tried hard to find a definition of an adult care facility, and I can't find one. I don't know what it is. When I look through the things that are permitted in a agricultural zone, a rural agricultural zone, I see single-family residences, manufactured housing, cluster developments, things that I see that are not allowed, apartments, condominiums, multifamily, rooming houses, conversions of existing residential structures to multiple dwelling units. I mean, that's specifically said as a not permitted use, and isn't that exactly what's happening here? I mean, I guess it's not a residence, but we're still converting it into something that's going to have multiple dwelling units, which is not a permitted use of this zone. Thought this was interesting. In the same area, the same category of the permitted uses under public and institutional uses, hospitals and sanitariums are not permitted. Nursing homes are not permitted, which are residential facilities that offer the same level of medical care that this facility is saying that they're going to be offering. And that is defined. What is defined? Oh, I forgot. Hotels, motels, inns, those are also not allowed. You can, with special exception, get a campground, a youth camp, an RV park, or a bed and breakfast, which is very different than what we're seeing here, and I think falls within the character of a rural agricultural zone. What I was able to find, a clear definition for an adult daycare facility, which is, it kind of makes sense, because if you look at how the things are written, how they're written in the actual permitted use chart, it goes child daycare, adult care facility, and I just wonder how hard would it be to miss one word, the word day, in which case would kind of solve all these problems, right? A daycare is defined, and I'm going to summarize here, to me what is kind of one of the important things here, is that a daycare only operates for a total number of hours in which a child may be there for 13 hours. And in adult daycare, that number is reduced to 12 hours. So they can't be there as long as kids, which kind of blows my mind a little bit. In addition, other things that aren't allowed there, like offices are not allowed in rural agricultural zones of any sort, government, financial, medical, dental, health. I mean, like clinics are not permitted in that list.
You're getting close. Actually, you passed your time.
Thank you for the heads up. I'll just end by saying that it's clear to me that this use is not in line with the intended permitted uses of a rural agricultural zone, and I truly believe that this is just simply a typo, and that we're kind of wasting our time even discussing it. It doesn't fit.
Thank you. Thomas Mead.
Good evening. I'd like to start talking in a sort of orderly fashion here. First about technical issues with respect to what's been submitted, and then moving on to some greater philosophical issues. I know there's been a lot of talk about the septic design plan here, and I'd like to raise a couple of issues with it, whether it is withdrawn tonight or not, in the sense that previous plans for this property, going back to 2006 when the subdivision was created, show protective well radii being submitted in the location where the existing septic plan is and the proposed replacement plan or replacement system is supposed to be going. Down here in this area on the property. Look back at the 2006 plan. There is a protective well radii that covers this area here. If you look at the 2015 plan to expand the parking, there's a protective well radii around here. There is a well that was shown on the original 2006 plan, doesn't show here anymore. The question and concern that I have on behalf of my clients is, the same engineering firm has been doing all these plans. What happened to these things? Because there's no coherent explanation from anyone coming in as to what happened here. And if there is or was a well, and they want to put this leach field in here, then there needs to be proper steps done for decommissioning that well so it does not become an environmental hazard by creating a pathway for migration to the groundwater. I want to talk about the calculation of the system capacity. The applicant's own expert, T.R. Selling, said that you needed 1,275 gallons a day to operate the quote-unquote 9-bed facility. they only had 3 employees as opposed to the 4.25 that were represented with respect to the state of New Hampshire. However, what Selling did in his calculation is he assumed, and that manual he works from assumes he expects of an employee an 8-hour day. They have talked about this being a 24-hour facility being staffed 24 hours. The 3 employees are not 1 employee per shift. My understanding is, from the prior testimony, is that it's essentially 3 employees per shift. So there's really 9 employees per day there. If that calculation is in fact revised to deal with that, that is 1,395 gallons per day. Even their proposed replacement plan does not meet that requirement. And that's assuming that all the other uses come out of this building here. And quite candidly, the note with respect to the sports center is probably adequate. I did not read note 9.1 as eliminating and terminating all the other uses in the building, as the applicant has said here on the record. And certainly, if anything comes to this meeting, it ought to be that that is clarified and changed and made concrete and ironclad so that other things don't come slipping in here. Going on to the stormwater management plan. We don't dispute, even though my clients live right across the road here and the stormwater flows under them, that the increase in pavement here, according to the stormwater management study, only contributes a modest amount of water, additional water. But given the reduced size of this facility that they're planning, they don't need this additional parking from 2015. Anything dealing with approval of this plan ought to have that parking reclaimed as part of any sort of condition here, because you don't need it, and my client should not be had to suffer even a modest amount of water being flowed additionally onto their property, especially if the parking is not even. There has not been any change since the last meeting to the policies and procedures proposed by the applicant. And I'll be candid with you. When they first talked about this back in June, they spoke very eloquently about all the things they're going to do to protect the community, protect the neighborhood and the town from potential negative outcomes by having this facility there. When I saw the actual policies and procedures they submitted last month, frankly, I was horrified. And I was horrified because the most comprehensive plan had to deal with fire, which I understand is important, but given the concerns that everyone has in this neighborhood with respect to safety of children, safety of residents, safety of everyone involved, is really short. They talked about their background checks and their screening. They require everyone to fill out the forms to allow the check, but frankly, some of the checks they're talking about in there take 30 or so days to do. National checks take 30 days, international checks take 30 days. If those are the case, there needs to be something in there that says they're not going to now allow people onto this property, to their facility, whether they're employees or residents of this facility, until they have cleared the check. Because it doesn't do you any good to do a check that takes 30 days, it's a 2-week program, they're already out of there, or worse yet, the negative outcome has already occurred. Now let's talk about this a little more philosophically here, which is, even if they can address and fix all these things, which I'll be candid, they probably can at some point here, this proposal simply doesn't fit in your zoning. You cannot have a 9-bed overnight facility that you pay for in this zone as a matter of right. It simply doesn't fit, even putting aside the licensing issue. But understand this, you can't have an inn, you can't have a hotel, you can't have a hospital, you can't have a nursing home there. Those are all places that you pay for overnight, and you're not getting that here. You're trying to get through the back door with that issue. Now, if you can't do that under the zoning, then you shouldn't be allowing this facility as they requested it to be approved in this zone. You folks, as the planning board, have the power to set reasonable time and use restrictions with respect to anything you approve. And you certainly are well within your power to say, this facility is not going to be 24/7, that it's not going to operate 7 days a week. And that is a legitimate exercise of your power. It's not a violation of your powers under the statute. It's not a violation of the ADA. And I would encourage you to deny this facility. But certainly, if you see your way to approving it, that you place reasonable limitations on it so that this neighborhood's character is not changed and the people who are living and breathing in that neighborhood are not jeopardized. Happy to entertain any questions you have.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Mead. I live at 9 Philbrook Road, and my residence is Tilton, New Hampshire. I would just make 3 points, one similar to quickly the point that was brought before. If I came to you and said, I have a very nice facility and I'd like to open a boarding house in my zone, R4, you'd say, no, prohibited. If I then came back and said, well, I'm going to restrict it to retired clergy, it will be the only people in my boarding house, you would look at your zoning ordinance and you said, no, you cannot do that. If I said, these are older clergy people and they really need a facility, they can't cook for themselves, I'm going to provide meals for these people in my boarding house, you would say no. If I then stood back, came back in front of you, and said, oh, this isn't a boarding house, this is an adult care facility, nothing has changed. So what the zoning makes crystal clear that I cannot do in that zone is exactly what I've just described using another set of words that magically turns it into a permitted use. So to me that doesn't make sense, and if it's ambiguous, then it would seem to me you need to clarify that ambiguity before proceeding. Number 2, on the background checks, I thought it was extremely clever, as has been pointed out, that the background checks need not be performed before people enter the facility. That you could be there for 30 days, 45 days before the background check is actually performed. All that document says is that the applicant will give permission for the background check to be performed. The last point is the board in a position, or who would be in a position, to enforce any understandings that are reached in this project? The new septic system has been taken off the table. So that's been withdrawn, it's no longer submitted. Who monitors the septic system? Does the board monitor the septic system? Does the town monitor the septic system? Who enforces that provision? And lastly, on this short point on the septic, if the 3 staff people are not there 24 hours a day, it's one staff person on an 8-hour shift on each shift. And what has happened to our staffing ratio? Is it 9 clients and 3 staff, or is it realistically, is it 9 clients and 1 staff person? So I would urge you to reject the plan in my instance based on its non-compliance with a plain reading of the zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Tammy Manti? Good. Lisa Parsons?
Hi, my name's Lisa Parsons. I live at 59 Autumn Drive in Tilton. I submitted a letter to the planning board at about 5:45, so I'm sure you haven't read it. So I'd just like to read it quickly. My name is Lisa Parsons, and I reside at 59 Autumn Drive in Tilton. My husband and I moved to this location over 20 years ago. We chose this location as a place to run our small family-run pet boarding kennel, which fits the rural agricultural zone, and raise our 2 sons. Although the neighborhood is rural and spread out, we have found it to be a wonderful community of like-minded families. When choosing a place to raise a family, we chose the rural agricultural zone as we wanted a home in an area that was not going to change dramatically. This zone is for single-family dwellings. I don't understand how or why the planning board is considering deviating from the intention of the zoning laws for the town of Tilton. We and all the other families that reside in the area abide by these rules, and I see no reason why the planning board is considering this proposed plan, especially given the overwhelming community opposition. When Mr. Callahan purchased this property, it was a media center and also housed artist studios. I remember when this was approved, and it was made clear that no one was to reside at the property, including the artist studios. The sports center was approved under conditions, including parking, open hours, that would try to maintain the quality of life in the neighborhood. The sports center agreed to only be open until 9 p.m. There have been many occasions that the center was open past 9 p.m. We all understand a game that runs a little over. But my husband walked in one evening after 9 and the game had just started. Many times cars have been parked out on the street, which is another violation. These examples may sound trivial, but they show that Mr. Callahan has no respect or regard for the stipulations that he agreed to. The way in which he has conducted himself with the new proposal for an adult care facility shows the pattern continues. How many meetings had to be continued because he did not do what he was supposed to, or provide the planning board with the information they requested and required? He hadn't even done what he was supposed to do before the sports center was open. Given the serious nature of his newest venture, I would be reluctant to trust that he would be compliant, even if it did conform with current zoning regulations. I feel the acceptance of the definition of adult care facility was made hastily and with lack of pertinent information regarding the actual proposed facility. They are trying to push this through and be grandfathered before the state of New Hampshire imposes regulations on such facilities. I implore the board to step back and explore the implications that such a facility will have on our community. There is a need for rehab facilities, but they must be placed in areas that are zoned for them and can absorb the impact on the immediate area. Thank you.
Catrice Sutherland.
Yes, I am Catrice Sutherland. My husband and I just purchased a home in Sanborn, 71 Hunkins Pond. We have 2 4-year-old twins, and we purchased a home in that area because we looked at the schools, we looked at the sense of community, and we fell in love with it. We never thought in June when we purchased the home that I would be attending a meeting such as this to consider that type of facility to come into that area. So I come to you before you tonight as a concerned mother, nothing less, nothing more. But I have grave concerns for my children. This sounds like definitely a for-profit venture, but my question is, who will pay the cost? Will it be me and mine? Will it be my neighbors and their children? Who will pay the cost for this for-profit venture in the long run? I have concerns about what I know about them doing background checks as a paralegal in the criminal defense system for years. I know that background checks take time. If they're not done and approved before you roll in, then what good are they? I know that if you just do a local background check or even a statewide background check, and you have patients coming from any other part of the country, or even internationally, that just doesn't cut it. Again, grave concerns for a Sandwichton Police Department as well as the Tilton Police Department that already, I believe, are overburdened with crimes, with drug-related crimes. Who again is going to absorb this extra burden because of a lack of security and a lack of management in this type of facility in this community? Who again is going to bear that burden? Again, a concerned mother, nothing more, nothing less.
Theo Brackett.
Just want to make sure you receive my email. People are attached. Can't say anything.
And Karen Ober.
Karen Ober, Sandwichton Board of Selectmen. I just wanted to comment on two things. One is how this is going to continue to affect the Sandwichton residents who are part of this neighborhood. When there are issues, who are they going to be calling? Are they going to be calling the Tilton Police? Are they going to be calling the Sandwichton Police? How are these issues going to be handled when they're on the border of the two towns? So that's one concern. My second consideration is we know that this has gone from a 24-bed facility to a 9-bed facility, and I just would like to know what it will be the future process when they want to increase. What stipulations will they have to follow to increase this facility? Because we know that will happen. It will not, as previously stated, stay at a 9-bed facility for a very long time. So those are my two concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody I missed on the list? Yes.
I live in Sandwichton, New Hampshire. I'm also a licensed healthcare administrator in the state of New Hampshire. I saw the first presentation on the video. I've been at every meeting since. I have not heard from this applicant or the representation how they plan on safely managing this population, license and no license. The only information that I've been able to read came from another facility, Plymouth House. It's my understanding they have no permission to use those documents. There's been nothing really presented. We've talked about bricks and mortar issues tonight. We haven't talked about, with this population, what's to be done to make it a safe experience, both for the people that are using the program, those that are providing the care within the program, and for the immediate community. Those questions have to be answered. I've had nothing to give me any sort of sense of honest presentation from the side of the applicant. We were hearing for months after close working with the state of New Hampshire, working with a relationship that we're going to have the staffing ratios. What I heard this evening was since the last meeting was some sort of inquiry that came up with no ratios being necessary at this point. That wasn't what was implied once before. But there was a communication going on with the state of New Hampshire to talk about what ratios would be presented to the board for permission to make sure that this program is done in a safe manner, day in, day out, 24 hours a day. Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
I was just told that your email address is at tiltonnh.org, not tilton.org, so you did not receive my email. Okay, because I did bring a copy, and I have a couple copies here if you wanted to pass some of those out and read them over maybe. All right, here it goes. Let's see if I can get under the time allotment. So my wife Carrie and I live in Samberton, 4 houses away from 100 Autumn Drive in Tilton. I first learned about the proposed residential substance abuse treatment facility from some documents that a concerned neighbor had placed in our mailbox back in March. At first I was skeptical of the subjective written letter that they had provided us along with the first page of the official application package, largely because the application package described the use as an adult recovery center and the accompanying letter described the intended use as that of a substance abuse rehab facility. I thought that one of my neighbors must have misunderstood something or misheard something. I thought incorrectly that it must be some sort of 9-to-5 physical rehabilitation program that provided occupational therapy services or some sort of services for the elderly, something consistent with a sports center, loft gym, that kind of endeavor. Certainly not a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365 days a year treatment facility for individuals with substance abuse problems that the subjective written letter claimed. I attended the Tilton board meeting in March and realized that somehow the Adult Recovery Center did indeed refer to a residential opioid abuse rehab facility. I was surprised that they were even trying for a permit because, as I understood it, multifamily homes, boarding houses, or anything that provided overnight lodging were not allowed in our neighborhood. I didn't think we were permitted to rent out rooms in our own home, so how could a 24/7, 365 opioid treatment facility be allowed? At the same time, I tried to keep an open mind because I know there is such a thing as the NIMBY phenomenon, not in my backyard. And I do believe that, unfortunately, in our day and age, things like this are necessary. I tried to keep an open mind after that first meeting when I got an uneasy feeling listening to Ms. Bounds of Medical Reimbursement Specialists, MRS, present to the planning board at the March meeting. Something didn't sit right with me with regards to how the material was presented. It was very undefined, and with how there seemed to be so many unanswered questions about the operations of the proposed facility. Knowing that as humans, we've evolved to fear the unknown, you can tell I'm a nerd, I started trying to educate myself about substance abuse treatment facilities and the company that seemed to be appointed to manage it. I became curious why MRS is planning on implementing a 12-step program, or treatment as usual, rather than a mindfulness-based relapse prevention program, which studies going back as far as 2009 had found were significantly more effective at preventing relapse when compared to TAU programs. I decided to do some research into MRS, and I found my first red flag. According to their own website, they are not a medical or rehabilitation provider. They market themselves as a consultant in the healthcare industry that specializes in providing coding and billing consulting services to actual healthcare providers. According to their website, they are medical reimbursement specialists. The word management is nowhere to be found. It is only found in their application materials provided to the board. And their mission statement is, as last I checked, MRS partners with healthcare organizations to provide the, hold please, inopportune space, people and expertise to help them achieve their revenue cycle goals. They specialize in helping actual healthcare providers be more efficient and effective at making money. I do not think badly of them for providing the service, no doubt a necessary one with the current complexity of healthcare in this country, but my wife and I found it shocking that a consultant to the healthcare industry had been retained to manage the operations at the facility, which provides services to some vulnerable members of our society that desperately need them. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I know I'm probably going fast. My wife is a clinical pharmacist. I'm an engineer in training working at an architectural engineering firm in Concord. Soon, after I've acquired necessary work experience, I hope to get my professional engineering license. And in my mind, the only thing I can relate this to is that the decision of MRS to operate a residential substance abuse rehab facility would be akin to me, were I a licensed structural engineer, which I'm not, applying my professional seal to a set of electrical drawings. This is known in our practice as practicing outside of one's discipline. It's entirely unethical. Also, if something goes wrong with the PE licensure, it's jailable. I then had to comprehend the fact that there are no laws or regulations in place to prevent this, as they've mentioned. Hoping to find some track record of their performance as a provider of substance abuse treatment services, I looked at the Plymouth Health website, which they had referenced at previous planning board meetings. I found no mention of MRS on the Plymouth Health website. However, I did find a second red flag. It was strikingly apparent that a large portions of the application material furnished by MRS for the 100 Auburn Drive facility had been plagiarized from the Plymouth Health website. At following planning board meetings, it was confirmed that MRS had no affiliation with Plymouth House, and as I recall, they had not received permission from Plymouth House to replicate the material. At this point, I became an opponent to this proposed facility on the grounds that it would mean the circulation of 166 to 624 strangers based on current estimates for time of stay and how many rooms they're looking to have circulating through my dirt road neighborhood each year. And that these people who happen to be vulnerable members of our society and in need of help would be treated by an organization that I do not believe possessed the required expertise to provide that care.
With the influx of this number of strangers to our neighborhood, it would irreversibly alter the community. After I arrived at this conclusion, I learned that a large study had found that residential rehab facilities specialize in treating people with alcoholism cause a decrease in local property value by 8%. Same study found that the effect is magnified to 17% for places that specialize in opioid treatment, which at that time was, I believe, what they were saying it would be, based on, I think, the original February meeting. I mean, we're not sure. So for us, that's 17% of our closing costs and our first 3 years of mortgage payments gone. We're not sure we will remain here if this facility with its non-compliant zoning use in a rural agricultural area changes the neighborhood, as we think it will. We moved here so we would know and recognize our neighbors. It's a small, well, the equivalent of a small but likely to grow hotel next door with 24-hour day operations, video camera, and premises restricted to access by children would change that. Am I over my time already? I don't want to. All right. Yeah, I guess so. All right. So what will happen if, and most likely when, they're required to provide medical services on site as part of the licensure requirements? A quick study states that have made more progress in establishing licensure requirements than New Hampshire leads one to conclude that it will likely be required. At this time, will the board allow this non-compliant service as well because they'll be grandfathered in? According to the division statement located in the town of Tilton's website, 2 primary purposes of the board are to protect the rural character of the town from intense residential development, getting some cotton mouth, and the development of recreational facilities aimed at all age groups. Allowing the proposed facility to operate at 100 Autumn Drive would be in direct opposition to both these objectives. I have similar concerns about the expansion. Where does it end? I mean, they've made no secret that they're looking to expand beyond 9 beds. They're originally going from 16 to 24. If they do get a septic or sewage hookup to town sewer, that would alleviate the current restrictions. So there are paths forward for them to expand, and I think it's logical to believe that it's not going to stay there at 9 beds. Yeah. So finally, well, this is kind of just rehashing the thoughts from before. I just didn't quite follow how the conclusions were reached by the planning board. It seemed to me, from watching the February meeting, that the board was caught unprepared to voice concerns and questions from a residential substance abuse rehab facility. I find this understandable because I would not expected that to be presented either, based on the application material of an adult recovery center. In the March meeting, it seemed that the board thought it was going to be most likely similar to a sanitarium, which was also not allowed in an RA zone. And then at the May meeting, it was decided it had a regional impact, potential regional impact. And then immediately after that, they voted to accept the definition of adult care facility. So I just couldn't follow the thought process. Everyone there was surprised.
Mr. Brackett.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so I guess that's about all it. All right. Thanks.
May I ask a question?
Quickly.
My name is Tammy Manti. In regards to his question, he didn't get, I'd like to actually bring that up. I'm not sure, this is my first, I've been to every meeting I could be here, and how it works, but when you gave us regional impact, for the surrounding neighborhood of Sanverton, that's where I live in Sanverton. And then you went ahead and made a decision directly after that to label it adult care facility. I'm confused because when you gave us the right to speak, we didn't get to speak on that at all. Is that the proper procedure?
Nobody wants to comment.
Like it restated?
Should like the question restated.
All right, so when you gave the Sanverton residents that surround this proposed facility the regional impact, which gives us the right to talk, right? To speak about how, where to come up with it and all that. Do you understand what I'm saying so far? Then at that same meeting that we attended, that you gave us at, you voted right after that on saying it's adult care facility without even getting our input. Is
is that the steps that are taken, or should we have been heard before you went ahead and labeled it, is what I'm asking.
It's a public comment session.
Okay. Okay, so it's public comment, but not necessarily question and answer time.
Right now, so you let me ask that question, but you have no answer, is that correct?
Right.
I heard it.
I'll close it to public comment. Does the board have any other questions?
So I'm still concerned about the septic system. Even using the new figures, you're 5 gallons under its use. In your engineer's language, he talks about the system was installed so long ago, it was before DES even keeps records. So he used today's standards to figure out what's good for that system. You've got 9 beds and 3 employees. Well, 3 employees can't possibly cover a 24-hour facility 7 days a week unless you've got them working some massive overtime. Even 4 employees. So what is your employee shift? What does it look like? How many people on shift in a 24-hour period? Because you're going to be over capacity of the existing proposed septic system as your engineer describes it.
Because we're off-site for many hours during the day. Those folks will be leaving, as we have said numerous times, at about 5 o'clock every night and having house in the building until 10 o'clock. So
Rain or shine, snow, sleet, hail, blizzard,
and even if
hurricane.
you didn't let me finish, so you want to talk about So, based on our conversation with
We've had a request for you to go to the microphone, please.
Based on our conversations with the folks in Concord, the 20 gallons per day per employee, and I do want to correct Attorney Bedard, that we will not have 3 employees per shift 24/7. That's not how it's going to work. We'll have 2 during the day. We'll have 1 on a mini shift, and we will have 1 overnight. That's what we will have. That's your 3 employees. However, within the water calculations from the Groundwater Bureau, we can have up to 4.25 employees. That's where you fall 5 gallons under, if you did the actual 4.25 employees. So, say we only have 3 residents. Naturally, we would not have 4 employees. 3 residents would not require 4 employees. So we have the flexibility to go up to 4.25, but our minimum will be 3. And again, I want to emphasize that they have a commitment off-site each day between 5 and 10:30.
So when they project the sewage flow for a house, it's by bedroom, et cetera, et cetera. They don't project it by, well, we're only going to use 1 bedroom. So I suspect the same projection is used on this.
I have this.
Well, I can only go by what I've got, what I have.
I believe you submitted this email as well from Tom, but I can go ahead and forward it right now.
Is it from DES?
Yep.
Yeah. It's on,
So 9 beds is your maximum. That's what we've got to go by the septic calculations, not on probabilities or maybe we're only going to have 2 or 3 people there. It's 9 beds. And I still
That's what he
can't,
gave you, and we're still underneath by 12, we're at 12.95, so his calculation is what it is.
and I still don't see how your calculation for employees is going to work. There's 3 8-hour shifts in a 24-hour period, 7 days a week. So you got a mini shift in there, so what have you got them working? 10-hour shifts or?
I guess the best way to answer that
Could you go to the microphone, please? Because people cannot hear you.
The best way to answer that is the calculations were based on how many we could have. We know that it is 9 residents, and we know it is 3 employees. How we manage those shifts is really on us on the business plan. We can have up to 4.25 employees and still meet the septic requirement and the flow requirement as the state did the calculations for us. And we submitted those to Dari, so we're still underneath the flow.
these aren't. I just don't see them.
What about visitors?
Well, yeah, that is being taken into consideration. So on June 13th, there are a list of items to be addressed. The last one was more clearly defined information on security procedures should be submitted. June 13th, there's a list of items to be addressed. One of them more clearly states, more clearly defined information on security procedures.
We did submit documents. I wasn't here at the August meeting, but at the August meeting, we came up with 3 items left. Because those were the 3 items that were being sought, we thought that we had satisfied the requirements that the board asked for in June. We believed that those items were satisfied in what we had given you because it wasn't raised as one of the 3 issues in the minutes that you drafted or that your office drafted.
Okay, so on June 13th, snow storage areas need to be depicted clearly, and they need to be taken out of the wetlands. Here's a print from July 31st, and the snow storage is still in the wetlands. So are you telling me that we're going to ignore these lists and say, okay, you can suddenly put snow storage in the zoning? And I'm sorry for being facetious, but this list didn't magically go away.
Well, we just raised, this was raised by the third party reviewer, and it had to do with the snow storage area down here.
You
So
also
we said that as a condition of approval, we would move that snow storage area.
have 2. One's within the 20-foot buffer.
Chairman?
Yes.
I believe a document was submitted clarifying security. You believe? Or you know? I believe. It's, so that, and I could confirm that by looking at my computer, and
It's here, it's in the packet you gave us.
so now I know.
Tonight's packet.
It is here. No, it's right, this one.
Stand up and make a comment, Karen.
You need to wait just one moment, please. We stopped public comment, we're discussing things with the board at the moment.
But it doesn't say wait until they get back. It doesn't do any good. Okay, so it doesn't say that.
Doesn't say that.
The septic system. Too close. Maybe it's a 9-bed facility.
We can stop.
Like having a state.
That doesn't help me.
It'll tell you to sign. You go and how the water flows in. As far as it, see that thing with the storm? That's already an outlined cloud.
Madam Chair, public comment is done.
It is.
Well, it's,
Okay, the board is going to take a 10-minute recess while we regroup on some of these papers we have questions on. So feel free to talk amongst yourselves.
Can we shut the microphones off?
per day is just not, it's just not. So if you do, no. So if you've got, so I haven't created a shift for, I haven't created a shift for a long time. So if you've got 24 hours, so that's 3 shifts a day.
We're doing a competition on septic.
What? Oh, yeah, they haven't been there forever. Yeah. I mean, it's a wonderful school, but it's just... I mean, my wife was windows. Didn't get like $75. We were both there for like I work here. Exit for opportunity.
You're telling me to
Yeah. Where?
All right, we will begin our meeting again. Folks in the back, we're back in session. Thank you. Everybody here. What's the opinion of the board? What would everyone like to do? Is anybody ready to make a motion this evening, or do we need more information?
If this is approved by the board, there's a huge list of conditions that have to go with that.
I personally would like to speak to our attorney and get some guidance prior to continuing, but it's up to what the board would like to do. Would you like it in a motion? I'll put it in a motion, that's okay.
I could go either way. I have an issue with the septic system. I think 5 gallons per day is just too close. We have a letter from 2 engineers that contradict it. So who do you go with?
I will make a motion to continue this until the, what is it, September 23rd? 26th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. I didn't hear you, Christine. And any opposed? And one abstained? Okay, so we're going to continue this until the September 26th meeting. No, I'm sorry, no, that it's closed to the public comment now. Somebody ask a
What
question.
is that under the statement of business that they're doing work? They're doing work?
Yes. Okay, we have the minutes of the August 8th meeting to review. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those prior?
I don't even know what I did with them.
Would you like a copy?
I think I got a copy. Is that an extra copy?
It is. I printed it also.
Yeah, I'm here somewhere.
Yeah, I read them.
Maybe you could state to make clear why.
We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of August 8th as written.
I wasn't here, so that's
Oh, not for you. Those of us that were here. Oh, Mr. Pyra, would you like to rejoin us for the minutes?
I didn't remember this.
Sorry.
See what I mean? Like, in this case, they didn't say why.
We have a motion and a second to accept the draft, the minutes of the August 8th.
Thank you for comments.
Oh, no, I was all set.
Okay, all those in favor?
Same.
Okay, any opposed? 2 abstentions because they were not here.
Yeah, see, there it is. So even the minutes of this reflect.
Later, Gator. August 22nd minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity that was here to look at them? You were here for that one, Catherine.
Doesn't let the attorney go
Did you get the 22nd? Yes.
This by no means reflect the length of time we were here, which is what we discussed.
Says it took 2 hours.
Yeah.
Put this back on the...
Did we approve August 8th?
Yes.
I mean, 22nd?
Not yet. We're on that currently.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 22nd, 2017, as written.
Second.
Ms. Kempersky already seconded. All those in favor?
Oh, yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Jane's going to abstain because she wasn't present.
If you approve, you can approve minutes.
Yes. Gary, for correspondence and new business.
We've got a couple things. I think I already handed these out, but I'll hand them out one more time. This is Conservation Commission minutes. The top one, Catherine had asked last time about the Tilton storage, and and I was like,
Which one's Tilton storage?
Which one's
that one? Okay.
Yeah,
Tilton trailer
Okay,
or
what's
the
that?
My Box?
Tilton trailer?
neither.
Oh, boy.
Tilton trailer?
No, Tilton storage.
Or next to Hannaford.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to
Any
kind
different?
of get us reoriented with that. So I just sent an email to those guys about getting their final approval. But it looks like the Concom had some comments about snow storage, I think. So I just wanted to get you guys back on track. I had a really good answer. So that's where we stand with that. Other than that, we got some information here. I guess I'll just maybe give this to Chairman Tilton. Other than that, it's got some environmental documents that our planning board is CC'd on.
Ooh. Shoreline, is this new shoreline protection? Shoreline inspector. What property is this on, Dar?
So,
I think that's the transmission lines, right?
so So what conditions did we give that Tilton?
There were a lot.
We did this backward. You
Go ahead.
proceeded on conservation first.
They did. We sent them back.
We sent them back.
Yeah.
I thought there was one that didn't
She
go.
wasn't here, she may not have known.
Selectmen's already opposed.
We've already done that.
I hope there's conditions in there, but it's too late now.
There were about the.
Snow storage.
Yeah,
There
there were
were
quite a
in the calculations.
It had like 12 or 13.
I heard that.
Think
Blue
over
thing
the
or
line.
something, and then you have a fence, and there was all kinds of conditions.
It was
Right?
the one, yeah, it was the one where we were like, wow.
We did a few conditions.
So here's me the minute by hand.
And then,
Too many other things that took its place.
the My Box,
Yeah, my box.
they had some conditions of approval as well. And they've submitted some plans. I actually, need to, I guess maybe verify. The landscape area along Route 3 shall include a higher percentage of evergreen trees and shrubs. Verify that they did that. Oh, good. I have to sign that tonight. I think on the
This
plans.
can do it in 2 weeks, huh?
We can do it in 2 weeks, yeah.
And that's this easement plan they put forth, this one?
Oh, no, this is the My Box. They sent their final plans over, but I just got them, and now looking at this, I want to check on the evergreen trees, so yeah, we'll do that in 2 weeks. And then I do
When are they
have
supposed to
the,
have them done? Because they don't have them in there now, I don't think.
There's nothing current, there's 2
I
boxes
I
there.
went by there today and I didn't see any
any,
evergreen trees.
So I think it's just how to play it.
yeah, on their final plan, yeah. They need to show their evergreen. And then I have the subdivision plan for Bob Callahan, ready to sign as well, but, that doesn't, we can do that another meeting if you want, they're right here.
Well, we really should approve that before we approve this, because a lot of this, some of this, not a lot of it, but some of this is contingent on the subdivision being approved because of the,
Yeah, I mean, I think the conditional approval I'm recommending is that whatever state this is in, we might as well just suggest.
unless it's cleaner just to have it.
Do you wanna go check downstairs?
Oh,
So I make a motion to adjourn this meeting, going to a non-public meeting.
Attorney-client.
Or, excuse me, attorney-client meeting.
Attorney client. Wait till it's recorded.
You have to turn off the camera.
He's checking.
That's Luke. Talking to himself.
We have our protection standing there.
what is,
Kept everything away. So.
All right.
You say you're going to say your next meeting's on the 26th?
You calling us sick that day?
Just try to take it seriously.
It's the day after my anniversary.
How'd you know? Thank you.
That's the last one too.